The 1st Armored Division, nicknamed Old Ironsides, is an armored division of the United States Army. The division is part of 3rd Corps, with its base of operations in Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. It was the 1st Armored Division of the U.S. Army to see battle in World War II. Major General Stephen M. Twitty assumed command of the 1st Armored Division on August 5, 2014. The division command group consists of Commanding General, Major General Stephen M. Twitty, Deputy Commanding General, Brigadier General Daniel R. Waltrath. Waltrath is to oversee all aspects of combat operations for the 4 BCTs. He has been replaced by Brigadier Fraser Lawrence. Deputy Commanding General, Brigadier General Leopoldo A. Quintus, Jr. Deputy Commanding General, Brigadier General Francis M. Bowdit. Chief of Staff, Colonel Ross Kaufman. Command Sergeant Major, Command Sergeant Major Lance Lair. Current structure. Since relocating to Fort Bliss, Texas, the division has been reorganized under the new modular design, in which the deployable unit of maneuver is a brigade, rather than a division. The division consists of 3 brigade combat teams, a combat aviation brigade, a division artillery brigade, and a sustainment brigade. After the spring of 2015, 3rd IBCT deactivated after redeploying from Afghanistan, and its maneuver battalions joined the remaining 3 BCTs. 4th ABCT has reflagged as 3rd BCT. 1st Armored Division consists of the following elements: Division Headquarters and Headquarters Battalion, Gladiator, Headquarters and Support Company, Operations Company, Intelligence and Sustainment Company, Division Signal Company, 1st AD Band, 1st Striker Brigade Combat Team, Ready 1st Brigade Headquarters and Headquarters Company, 6th Squadron, 1st Cavalry Regiment, 4th Battalion, 17th Infantry Regiment, 1st Battalion, 36th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Battalion, 41st Infantry Regiment, 2nd Battalion, 3rd Field Artillery Regiment, 16th Brigade Engineer Battalion, 501st Brigade Support Battalion, 2nd Armored Brigade Combat Team, Strike Hard, Brigade Headquarters and Headquarters Company, 1st Squadron, 1st Cavalry Regiment, 1st Battalion, 35th Armored Regiment, 1st Battalion, 37th Armor Regiment, 1st Battalion, 6th Infantry Regiment, 4th Battalion, 27th Field Artillery Regiment, 40th Brigade Engineer Battalion, 47th Brigade Support Battalion, 3rd Armored Brigade Combat Team, Bulldogs, Brigade Headquarters and Headquarters Company, 2nd Squadron, 13th Cavalry Regiment, 1st Battalion, 67th Armor Regiment, 1st Battalion, 77th Armor Regiment, 4th Battalion, 6th Infantry Regiment, 4th Battalion, 1st Field Artillery Regiment, 2nd Brigade Engineer Battalion, 123rd Brigade Support Battalion, 1st Armored Division Artillery, Iron Steel, Headquarters and Headquarters Battery, 24th Press Camp Headquarters, 734th Ordnance Company, Combat Aviation Brigade, 1st Armored Division, Iron Eagle, Headquarters and Headquarters Company, 3rd Squadron, 6th Cavalry Regiment, Heavy Cav, 1st Attack Battalion, 501st Aviation Regiment, Pistoleros, 2nd General Aviation Battalion, 501st Aviation Regiment, Desert Knights, 3rd Assault Battalion, 501st Aviation Regiment, Apocalypse, 127th Aviation Support Battalion, Workhorse, 1st Armored Division Sustainment Brigade Headquarters and Headquarters Company, 15th Special Troops Battalion, 142nd Combat Sustainment Support Battalion, Insignia. The division was nicknamed Old Ironsides by its first commander, Major General Bruce R. Magruder, after he saw a picture of the frigate Constitution, which is also nicknamed Old Ironsides. In January 1918, the Tank Corps of the United States Army was created with Colonel S.D. Rockenbach as its chief. At his direction, R.L.T. Wharton designed the original coat of arms, which was a triangle on a shield with a surrounding wreath and a dragon in silver. The triangle itself is an old heraldic element of armorial design known as a pile, the head of a spear. There was no shoulder patch in 1918, only this unit crest. The 7th Cavalry Brigade contributed the other part of the present-day armor shoulder patch. The brigade formed out of the 1st Cavalry Regiment at Marfa, Texas, on January 16, 1933 under General Van Voorhis, then colonel of the cavalry. The 7th Cav BDE included the 13th Cavalry. The 7th Cavalry Brigade had been organized specifically to develop the new armored force concept and train in the emerging tactics of modern warfighting. Colonel George Linthwaite joined the 13th Cavalry Regiment in 1933. Major General Robert W. Grow was instructed to develop a shoulder patch for the new armored force. Major Grow announced to the brigade that a contest would be held to design the new armored force patch. A 3-day pass was to be the reward for the designer of the winning entry. Private Linthwaite designed a patch which was 4-round and had a solid yellow-gold background to symbolize the cavalry heritage. On the face of the patch he drew a stylized black tank track with drive and idler sprockets to symbolize mobility. In the center of the track at a slight diagonal, he placed a single cannon barrel, also in black, to symbolize firepower. Finally, to symbolize the striking power of the new armored force, he added a diagonal lightning bolt in red, extending across the total design and full diameter of the patch. Private Linthwaite won his pass. In 1940, Major General Chaffee was made head of the newly created armor forces, which had evolved from the old 7th Cav Brigade and were preparing for the looming war in Europe. Gen Chaffee wanted a patch for this new armored force. He chose to combine the 7th Brigade patch with the triangle from the World War I crest. The tricolors, with blue for infantry, red for artillery, and yellow for cavalry, represented the 3 basic components of the mechanized armor force. In 1940, the War Department officially designated the now familiar patch worn by soldiers of all United States Army armored divisions. Origins. Carl Daniel Van Voorhis took a cadre of 175 officers and enlisted men from Fort Eustis to Fort Knox in February 1932, and established a provisional armored car platoon. This was based on an earlier effort, but was predicated on a new cavalry regiment TO&E which was published that year. Also published but never implemented, was a cavalry division TO&E which reflected that an unnatural assimilation of machines into the horse cavalry. Van Voorhis's cadre and platoon became the colonel for the 7th Cavalry Brigade, which went active on 1 March 1932 at Fort Knox. At first, it was nothing more than a headquarters detachment and the armored car platoon. On 3 January 1933, the 1st Cavalry Regiment was relieved from assignment to the 1st Cavalry Division, and was moved from Fort D.A. Russell to Fort Knox. The earlier mechanized platoon was incorporated into the new regimental TO&E, and the result was the 1st Cavalry Regiment, mechanized, which went active on 16 January 1933. The new regimental commander was Colonel Van Voorhis, late of the experimental mechanized force, while the executive officer was Adner Chaffee. The post commander of Fort Knox was Brigadier General Julian R. Lindsay, another cavalryman. To round out the cavalry nature of the unit, Major Robert W. Grow was on the regimental staff. Van Voorhis added the 13th Cavalry Regiment, the 68th Field Artillery Battalion, the 7th Reconnaissance Squadron, the 7th Signal Troop, the 4th Medical Troop, the 47th Engineer Troop and the 17th Quartermaster Battalion. The 7th Cavalry Brigade was fully formed. Van Voorhis remained in command until September 1938, when he was promoted to command the 5th Corps at Indianapolis, Indiana. Chaffee took over from Van Voorhis. On 7 May 1940, the 7th Cavalry Brigade took part in the Louisiana maneuvers at Monroe, Louisiana that were instrumental in developing the armored division concept. The maneuvers concluded on 27 May 1940, and the brigade returned to Fort Knox on 31 May 1940, and preparations began to expand the brigade into a tank division. After the brutal trench warfare of World War I, the United States was looking for new ways to engage in armed conflict. As the German army invaded France, Belgium, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands, the United States military hierarchy realized that an armored division was essential for a modern army. While training outside of Alexandria, Louisiana, the commanders of the 7th Cavalry Brigade met in a high school basement to discuss the creation of an American armored division. Major General Frank M. Andrews, Generals Abner R. Chaffee and Bruce Magruder, and Colonel George S. Patton Jr. agreed to recommend to Washington that the U.S. Army establish its 1st Tank Division. On 10 June 1940, in a conference with the Chief of Staff of the Army, the U.S. Army founded an armored force. 2 weeks later, General Abner R. Chaffee was given the order to head the creation of America's 1st Tank Division. Birth on July 15, 1940, the 1st Armored Division, largely an expanded and reorganized version of the 7th Cavalry Brigade, was activated at Fort Knox under the command of Major General Bruce Magruder. The 1st Cavalry Regiment was redesignated as 1st Armored Regiment, and 13th Cavalry Regiment was redesignated as 13th Armored Regiment under the 1st Armored Brigade, 1st Armored Division. For more than 2 years after its activation, the 1st Armored Division trained at Fort Knox, and the division pioneered and developed tank gunnery and strategic armored offensives while increasing from 66 medium-sized tanks to over 600 medium and light armored vehicles. Order of battle. The first order of battle for the 1st Armored Division was HHC, 1st Armored Division HHC, 1st Armored Brigade, 1st Armored Regiment, 13th Armored Regiment, 69th Armored Regiment, 68th Armored Field Artillery Regiment, 6th Armored Infantry Regiment, 27th Field Artillery Battalion, 16th Engineer Battalion, 81st Armored Reconnaissance Squadron, 13th Quartermaster Battalion, 19th Ordnance Battalion, 47th Medical Battalion, 141st Signal Company. On 15 April 1941, the 1st AD sent a cadre to form the U.S. 4th Armored Division at Pine Camp, New York.